Sales is one of the most challenging professions, and cold calling is one of the most difficult tasks that you can do in this profession. You can be an account executive, you can be a traditional salesperson, you can be a business development professional, you can be a recruiter. Regardless of where you sit in the sales teams at your company, it is a very difficult job to have. For the entrepreneurs that are out there, for the consultants, you know how it is. You're doing it all. You're doing the operations, but you're also having to spend a considerable amount of your time doing sales and marketing. And that is what has inspired me to motivate and inspire my followers, my listeners, to be successful at making those cold calls. When you think about why those cold calls are so difficult to do. Number one, they're challenging. Nobody really likes feeling rejection. The act of picking up the phone, maybe you get somebody on the phone, maybe you don't. Maybe you get denied by someone's secretary, or maybe you don't. But to pick up the phone and make that cold call is something that is being outsourced to artificial intelligence just because it's just so draining on on everyone's psyche. No one really likes to just be hung up on. That's very jarring. That's worse than ghosting. And it's not very good for your mental health. I know there are some salesmen out there that say, it doesn't really bother me, but it bothers them. There's only a very few amount of people that I've met in the world that have no problem handling rejection. It takes a toll. It drains your energy whenever you feel rejection. Another reason why people will say cold calling is difficult is because they'll say, I'm burned out. Cold calling is difficult because I'm burned out of my career. I'm ready to not have a customer or a prospect facing role. I'm ready to not have to worry and be stressed with commissions. I'm ready to take a break from consistently being optimistic and consistently representing my product and my service in the marketplace. You may just say, I'm sick of hard selling. I'm sick of soft selling. You may just be burned out of the profession of sales, and I get that. But I truly believe, and I talk about career burnout a lot, I truly believe that if you can get burned out, you can get recharged. And so I don't believe that the reason why cold calling is so difficult is because so many salespeople are just burned out. I can get you unburned. I can recharge you. I can re-engage you. So I don't want us to get hung up on just being burned out in your career, which is why it's so hard to cold call. Other people will say, the reason why cold calling is so hard is because my product or the service that I'm selling, it isn't in demand in the marketplace. And so when I'm calling and I introduce myself and I introduce my company and they learn about my product, they're no longer interested in the product because the product is not of a high enough quality to make it easier to sell. Some people, obviously, about inelastic demand and elastic demand. And there are some products out there that have elastic demand, which requires you to be an even better salesperson because they're not obligated to buy. And once they buy, it's a luxury product or it's a high-end product. So they're not obligated to continue to work with you when they're economically incentivized to pick the cheaper option in the long run in order to save money or to save budget. And so your product may represent a significant financial investment for whoever your prospects are. And so that's what they'll say. They'll say, what, it's hard to cold call because the product or the service that I'm selling isn't in high demand. And once they find out what it is, they're just not interested. And there's nothing that I can do as a salesperson to be able to close this sale because the product is not good. Now, there is some validity to that. If you have just a crap product, right, and it doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do, then redesign your product and come out with a product that is more industry leading, that is more effective at what your stated goals are with that product or what your stated benefits are. If you have a service and that service is not in high demand in the industry, it's possible that it's a talent issue, that your talent is not able to deliver the service at a high enough quality to earn those good reviews and to build your reputation in the marketplace. And that's okay. I've talked a little bit about that before, where if you're entering a new market, you have a new product, you have a new service, you may have to manage those engagements a bit differently than if you were well established. So I've covered some of those major, the biggest objections that prospects have when you're entering a new market and you have a new service, and that's something that you may have to invest in. If you have a service and it's not very good quality, or it doesn't have a high reputation or a strong reputation in your industry. But I just don't believe that the reason why it is so hard for so many people to cold call is because the product or the service isn't good. Just perfectly fine products. If you have an average product and you have an excellent salesman, then the product is going to sell. If you have an excellent product and a horrible salesman, it may not sell. But if you have an excellent product and an average or an excellent salesperson, that product is going to sell. If you have a crappy product, right, and you have to redesign your entire product, but if you have a crappy product, an excellent salesman may still sell that crappy product, but they may not do repeat business with you. I said that to say you have to know, as a manager, as a leader, as an executive, you have to know when you have a crappy product and that product needs to be redesigned and relaunched, or if you have a good enough product for your sales team to sell. Make sure you have at least an average product. Make sure you at least do one or two things very well, so that your salespeople can close those opportunities. But for the sake of this, let's just assume that you have an average product and it is very difficult for you to pick up that phone and call and sell that average product. That's probably one of the most, it's like a lukewarm product. It does one or two things very well. It barely offsets its weaknesses. It's not a really strong competitor, but it's an average product. Average products need the best talent and the most talented salespeople. Excellent products don't necessarily need really talented salespeople. Product will sell itself. Horrible products need excellent salespeople in order for that company to make the sales. It's hard. It's hard to cold call, to be a salesperson and try to close an opportunity when you're representing a company that has an average product. I'm sure I'm sure that's not happening to you. I'm sure your product is amazing that you're selling. I'm sure your service is amazing and it's excellent. But there's a good chance it could be average. But it's hard. It's hard to cold call when you know you have an average product. Another reason why I believe it's hard to cold call when you have an average product, because an average product doesn't necessarily come with built-in passion. An average product, when you're talking about it, you know another competitor may be just as good or better than you in a lot of different areas. And it's hard for you as a salesperson to get excited about and to get passionate and get and build the rapport that you need to build and have the correct approach with your prospective clients when you have an average product and you know it's average. You have integrity. You're honest. You're a transparent individual. You like to lead with the truth. You tell people the realities of the situations that they're facing. You build trust. You're a trusted advisor to your clients. And it is very difficult for you to represent a product that is average and try to convince your clients that it's excellent. And so it doesn't have the same passion when you're selling an average product. It's hard to cold call when you don't have the passion. I believe that when you boil everything down, when you think about having career burnout, you think about the quality of your product, all things being equal, I believe that the reason why so many people struggle with cold calling is because they've been listening to people who don't have vision. Straight up. When you listen to someone who doesn't have vision, the challenges that you are experiencing seem enormous. They seem like mountains when they're really just molehills. The problems that you're experiencing, the problems that you're facing in your personal life and the problems that you're facing in your professional life, those problems seem almost unsolvable when you're talking and listening to people who don't have vision. It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. Um, if you were to sit down and you're going to sit in a chair, right? And you're trying to look over a wall, it would be very difficult if that wall was the same height that you were, the same height that you are when you're standing. However, if you stand up out of the chair and you're able to look over the wall, you'll be able to see, oh, there's some things over the wall. It's all about perspective. When you're sitting down and you can't look over the wall, you may think, you know what, this wall is insurmountable. But once you stand up and you look over the wall, you're like, you know what, that wall is not insurmountable. I could actually climb over it. When you listen to people who don't have vision, when you listen to people who don't see a better future, when you listen to people who do not believe that you can get ahead, that you can generate wealth, that you can create a legacy, when you listen to people who don't see your career, a successful career path for you, when you listen to someone who doesn't believe that your company can create profits that exceed expectations without having to cut costs in a manner that is inconsistent with growth, when you listen to those people, they drain your energy. You see, when the first thing that they'll do, people who don't have vision, I just say they're sleeping. There's a lot of people that you listen to and they're actually sleeping. When you listen to people who are sleeping and you tell them like, hey, you know what I'm thinking about doing this year? I'm thinking about doubling my sales. Or you'll tell them like, hey, you know what I'm thinking about doing this year? I'm thinking about quadrupling my sales. And you tell that to someone who was sleeping, who doesn't have the vision, they will tell you that it is impossible. That's the first thing that they're going to tell you. It's impossible. And then when they see you making progress, when they see you making those cold calls, when they see you closing those opportunities, when they see you doing those things, they'll tell you, you know, you're not going to be able to sustain it. That's too much. That's too fast. That you're going too hard. Slow down. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And then you continue to make progress. You continue to make your numbers. You continue to surpass your benchmarks, and you begin to reach your financial goals. You begin to generate the revenue that you always believe that you can generate. You begin to quadruple your sales from last year. And then when you begin to quadruple your sales from last year and you begin to reap the rewards of your efforts, then you know what they'll tell you? They'll tell you that you're greedy. They'll tell you that you don't deserve it. They'll tell you that it's luck. Really, they're just projecting. They'll tell you that you cheated. They'll tell you that you stole it. But really, you have been working behind the scenes diligently, doing the things that you need to do in order to become the best salesperson in the world. You've been doing the best that you could to develop the skills that you need to lead the best sales team in the world. And it's not luck. There are some times that it is not luck. There are some times where it's not just favor. There's some times where it's not just blessings that are falling out of the sky. Sometimes it's hard work and dedication. And when you listen to people who don't have vision, when they cannot see how you can go from point A to point B and point B to point C, when you listen to those people, they will tell you that the way you're going from point A to C is wrong. They'll tell you that the way that you're going from point A to C is corrupt. They'll tell you that the way you're going from point A to C is just a miracle. It's just something that randomly happens, but it's because they don't have the vision. And because they don't have the vision, they don't understand your work ethic. And because they don't understand your work ethic, they don't understand your determination. And because they don't understand your determination, they don't understand your resilience. So they don't know how you can go from point A to point C. And so they'll tell you that you're an overnight success. They'll tell you that the things that you're enjoying in your life and the quality of life that you're living is somehow, you don't deserve it. But really you do. But really you do. You have just been listening to people for too long who don't have vision. They don't understand why you work. They don't understand the energy that you have. They don't understand the lessons that you're learning. They don't understand. That is why I believe that it is so hard for good salespeople, people who are in account sales, people who are selling products, people who are selling high ticket services. That's why I believe that it is so hard for you to do cold calling, because you're listening to people who cannot see what is going to happen once you pick up that phone call and close that sale. You're listening to people who tell you it's not worth it. You're listening to people who tell you you should not be excited about your product. You're listening to people who tell you that you should not be excited about your service. You're listening to people who will tell you that the weaknesses of the product are going to outweigh the strengths of the product. They're listening to people who will tell you that the side effects are not as good as the benefits. You're listening to people who don't see the vision. They cannot see the future. They're asleep. They don't know where you're going. They don't know where the product is going. They don't know where the market is going. They literally have no vision, and they are trying to convince you. They're trying to convince you, someone who can see the vision, someone who can see the future of the market, someone who can see the future of the product or the service, someone who can see your future once you're able to achieve the goals that you have set out for yourself. They're trying to convince you to not see. These are people who are asleep. You can try to spend your time waking them up, but there's no guarantee that you are going to wake them up. As a keynote speaker, I may be able to reach them. I may be able to bring the energy. I may be able to deliver a keynote speak that will wake them up, but a salesperson who is trying to quadruple their numbers and do more sales this year than they've done in their entire life, you're not going to have the time and the energy and the passion that you're going to need to wake someone like that up. If they are asleep, they're going to draw you down. They're going to drain your energy. They're going to slow you down. They're going to make it almost impossible for you to get to the goals that you are pursuing. First thing that they'll tell you, you know this, they're going to tell you that what your goal is not real. They're going to tell you it's impossible. And then once they see you start making progress on your goal, they'll tell you, you know what, it's not sustainable. And then after that, they're going to actively try to keep you from enjoying the fruits of your labor. They're going to try to take credit. They're going to try to discount your effort. They're going to tell you, oh, you made that look easy. But they're not telling you you made it look easy because they're on your side. They're supportive of you. They're telling you that you made that look easy because they don't want to admit that you put in the effort and the work in order to accomplish it. They don't want to give you the credit that you deserve by working on something when no one else believed. They don't want to give you the credit that you deserve by selling something that no one else was selling. They don't want to give you the credit that you earned and the respect that you earned by picking up that phone call, making a cold call, and closing a big opportunity. They don't want to give you the credit that you've earned by the work that you're producing. So they tell you, wow, you made that look easy. You quadrupled your sales. Oh, you made that look easy. That just comes easy for you. They're telling you that your work is easy. They're telling you that your process is easy because they do not want to admit that you one day woke up and decided that enough was enough, and you decided that you're going to use the best of your creativity, the best of your intelligence. You're going to use all of your determination and all of your resilience to accomplish something that no one else believes that is even possible. And that takes enormous amount of strength. It takes enormous amount of power. It means that you're very powerful as an individual. Imagine what you are as a team leader. Imagine what type of person you're going to be as an executive. It means that you're a very powerful person. And they do not want to admit that you are a more powerful person than they are. They do not want to admit, because the reason why they say your work is easy, the reason why they say that you made it look easy when you achieve your goals is because they do not want to admit that you're willing to do something that they could not do. You're willing to do something that they are not willing to do. You're willing to believe something that they were not able to believe. You're willing to work when they were not willing to work. You're willing to produce when they were not willing to produce. You're willing to put yourself out there and create new relationships with people in the market when they were not willing to put themselves out there and do the same thing. So they'll tell you it's easy. People who lack vision, people who are asleep, you know who they are. They'll tell you, oh man, you made that look easy. Be careful. When there are some people who might mean it, but there's a lot of people who say you made those sales numbers look easy. You made quadrupling your sales look easy. You made those cold calls look easy, but they don't know the work that you had to put in. So they'll tell you it's easy. They'll tell you that it's luck. They'll tell you that it's a miracle. They'll tell you that you just lucked out. You just got a good account. They'll tell you that you just got a few good phone calls. They'll tell you that the system is rigged in your favor. They'll tell you a lot of different things just so that they can dodge the accountability that your success is making them face. These are the people who are asleep. That's why you're listening to people who are asleep. And when you listen to people who are asleep, it's hard to cold call. They drain your energy, they drain your belief, they drain your faith. If you stop listening to people who are asleep, you stop listening to people who don't have the vision, you listen to people who have vision. You listen to that one coworker that is always passionate about what they're doing. You listen to that one, they may not even work in your industry, but maybe you meet them at a conference. You listen to that person who is excited about sales, excited about account management, excited about customer relationship management systems. When you listen to that person who is passionate about their career, that passion rubs off on you. And you begin to believe in your product like they believe in their product. That's why I believe that salespeople of all different industries and all different all different backgrounds and all different from all different regions should all meet each other and talk in conferences and connect and network with each other, because that energy, it rubs off. People say like iron sharpens iron. I'm not a blacksmith, but I'll tell you this. When you feel passion and you share that passion with the people around you, that passion begins to ignite something. It ignites some sort of a fire, it ignites a spark, and it begins to grow and grow and grow and get hotter and hotter and hotter. And you can add to the intensity of your passion. You can add to the intensity of the energy that you have when you're selling your product or your service just by conversating with someone who is very passionate, just by picking their brain and hearing how they're talking about their product and hearing how excited they are. That passion rubs off on you. Listen to the people who have vision. They're going to be the most passionate people that you'll ever meet. And it doesn't matter what career they're in. It doesn't matter what they're doing for their job. Connect with people. Build your network full of people who are passionate, who believe in what they're doing, truly believe in what they're doing, who are working to make the world a better place, who know their place in society. And know that the sacrifices that they're making and the work that they are producing is not in vain. It's not just self-serving. It's something that is serving a purpose that is much bigger than themselves. Find people who are passionate about their career, passionate about their jobs, and connect with them. Find out why they're so passionate, because you may be able to learn something from them. They're able to see things that most people are not able to see. You follow people who have vision. You follow people who can see. Don't listen to the people who don't have vision. They drain you. They make it almost impossible for you to pick up that phone and make a cold call and close that opportunity. Now, I said I was going to motivate you. If you haven't already been motivated, get ready. This is a part of the video where you're going to be able to rewind this and play this back multiple times. Okay? Making a cold call. Picking up the phone, calling some random number that you hope goes to the right office, to the right person. You don't know who's going to pick up that phone. You don't know if it is going to be their secretary. You don't know if it's going to be their consultant. You don't know if it's going to be their manager. You don't know who's going to pick up the phone. And regardless of who picks up the phone when you're making a cold call, guess what? You are always on parade. That first person who picks up the phone, you're in sales. You don't have to wait. I need to wait and talk to John. I need to wait and talk to Mary. If some human being picks up that phone, guess what? Boom, you're right into sales. You are right into selling. You are right into building rapport. You're right into establishing your credibility. You are right into doing the things that you need to do as a salesperson. Don't take any person that picks up the phone, especially if it's a human being. There's some AI out there that sounds very human. especially if it's a human being, you are right into sales. That is the best opportunity to begin the process of closing that sale. Now, we know there if you're dealing with an average product, and I'm not saying you have an average product, but I'm just saying let's just assume you have an average product that's no better than the next guy. So you have to be an excellent salesperson to close that deal. You know that you're going to receive objections. You know that they're going to say no. And if they tell you no, they're going to say not yet. They're going to say they don't have the budget. They're going to tell you so many things that are going to imply that they're not interested in your product or they already have it covered. It is so important for you to remember that before you give up your initiative, before you surrender to the no, that you remember that you have more power than the no. I believe that every salesperson, just like me, every person should wake up in the morning, look at their dream board, look at their dream sheet, look at the things that they have written down about how they want to live and why they want to live those ways. I believe on your dream sheet and on your vision board, there should be something in there that says, I want to be the best salesperson in the world. And then right beneath, I want to be the best salesperson in the world, there should be a line in there that says, I want to lead the best sales team in the world. But the reason why I believe that you should have, I want to be the best salesperson in the world and I want to lead the best sales team in the world is because that gives you a vision of what you're working toward. When you look down upon those things and you believe, you take those things in your mind, you take those things, you hide them in your heart, you put them in your spirit. When you say, I am going to be the best salesperson in the world, I am going to lead the best sales team in the world. When you have that, now you have the initiative. So when you go to work and you pick up the phone and you make that cold call, you have the initiative. You have already told yourself, I'm going to be the best salesperson in the world. You've already told yourself, I'm going to lead the best sales team in the world. It doesn't matter what product you have. You want your product to at least be average, trust and believe. But you're going to be the best salesman in the world, the best saleswoman in the world. So when you hear them say no, they're not saying no to you. You're the best salesperson in the world. When you hear them say, we don't have the budget, they're not saying no to you. You lead the best sales team in the world. Do not give up the initiative that you have already created for yourself by believing that you're going to be the best salesperson in the world. Do not give up that initiative of you're the first person to wake up in the morning and believe that you're going to be the best salesperson in the world. You're the first person to wake up to say, you know what, I'm going to sell. In order to be the best salesperson in the world, I'm going to sell these cold calls. I'm going to close bigger and bigger opportunities. I'm going to quadruple my numbers this year. The reason why you don't want to give up that initiative is because if you give up that initiative, if you believe the person that says, no, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to close this sale. Well, guess what? You give up the initiative, you don't close the sale. But when you pick up that phone call and you hear them say no, you have to remember when they're saying no to the best salesperson in the world. And when the best salesperson in the world hears no, they don't flinch. They don't care. Yeah, you said no. Fine. Okay. No. You're not saying no to me. I'm the best salesperson in the world. You just don't know that. Your no isn't a final answer. It may mean not right now. There's a way that when I hear no, I actually use no to make me stronger. I have a mental mindset trick that I use when I hear no, when someone's trying to sell something. I hear no, it makes me stronger. I have trained my brain so that when I hear no, and I want you to do the same thing, that when I hear no, it actually is a signal for me to build resilience. I believe no makes you more powerful because when you are powerful, I think of someone who is resilient. I think of someone who has a lot of determination. I think of someone who has a lot of strength. No makes you powerful because the more you hear no, and the more you You learn from that no. It allows you to build the more you pursue that sale, it allows you to build resilience. If you hear yes every single opportunity that you have, if you hear yes on every single call that you make, there's no opportunity for you to build resilience. Resilience is built through adversity. Resilience is built through challenges. The greater the challenge, the greater the adversity, the higher your level of resilience if you choose not to quit. If you continue to go, and you continue to push through that no, but continue to push through that challenge, continue to push through that sales objection. That no that you've heard turns into resilience. It gets converted from rejection into power because power is resilience, power is determination, and resilience and determination cannot be developed without some sort of objection, without some sort of adversity. Without a problem, you're not going to have resilience. You're not going to have determination. For the longest time, I used to have this insecurity when I was growing up as a kid. Grew up middle class right here in Southern California in the San Fernando Valley. And I would always question myself, like, am I going to be hard? Am I going to be strong? Am I going to be powerful? Am I going to be the man that I was born to be if my childhood is too easy? And I would question myself growing up and going to school in middle school and in high school. I would always question and doubt myself, like, man, maybe I'm not experiencing enough hardship. Maybe I'm not experiencing enough adversity. Maybe I'm not putting myself in the positions, or I'm worried that I'm not being put in the right positions in order to develop a certain amount of grit, a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of resilience, a certain amount of determination. I was really concerned that as a man, I would not, as a boy, I would not grow up to become a man that is powerful and that is strong because I was being raised in a middle class home and a middle class lifestyle. I was able to go to the park and play with my brothers, play basketball with my brothers. I was able to sleep under the same roof as my family, 5 brothers and 2 sisters. I was able to eat dang near every single meal. I had a bed to sleep in. I was worried as a boy growing up in Southern California in the San Fernando Valley in a middle class home. I was worried for the longest time that I would not be able to experience the hardship that I would need in order to develop the determination and resilience that I needed. I believe that's one of the reasons why I decided to volunteer to join the United States Air Force. I enlisted, and I was able to grow up very fast. 2 deployments, one for Operation Enduring Freedom, one's for Operation Iraqi Freedom. Climbed my way up, earned a commission as an officer in the United States Air Force after graduating from the United States Air Force Academy. I chose hardship. I chose to put myself in situations that were uncomfortable just because I knew that if I went through things that were uncomfortable and I chose not to quit, I would develop the determination and the resilience that I needed in order to grow strength, and that strength would turn into power when I become a man. And I was really concerned as an 18-year-old boy that I would not have the power and the strength that I needed in order to become the man that I was born to be. And so that's why I chose to go down to MEPS and put my faith in the recruiters in the United States Air Force. And that's why I chose all those things. That's why I chose to take the oath of office. Multiple times. I went to 3 basic trainings. I went to 1 basic training when I was enlisted, another basic training when I went to the prep school. I went through another basic training when I became a full-blown cadet at the United States Air Force Academy. I chose hardship in my career because I knew the hardship, the challenges that I would face, the greater the challenge that I faced, and if I did not quit, I would develop the determination and the resilience and the strength and the power that I respected. I respected those qualities in men when I was a boy. Getting out of the military, choosing to get my master's in business administration on nights and weekends while I was an active duty Air Force officer. That was very difficult. There was times when it was just so hard. I remember eating peanuts for dinner, peanuts for breakfast, because it was so easy to eat. And I would just grab a couple of peanuts and boom, that's my dinner. Boom, that's my breakfast. I literally did not have time to eat meals, but I knew I needed some nutrition. I felt like I was a bird for most of that time when I was going through grad school. And then when I graduated, I decided to transition out, becoming off and become a consultant at one of the big four accounting firms in the world. I got told no so many times. You have for those are out there who for those of you that are out there and you're in the job market, trust and believe. I feel it. I feel it. I have felt it. It is so hard to do a resume, to create an application, to put your heart and soul and your entire professional life on a piece of paper. Boom, send that piece of paper, upload it to the internet, send that piece of paper to a company through some sort of electronic portal, complete your application just to hear, boom, right away, rejected. We did not select you. I'm like, I put my heart and soul into my resume. I've got a cover letter. I did the best that I could on this application. I cannot see one reason why I was not looked at. I was not a selected. I was not selected for an interview. I had a stellar career. Like, I'm telling you, a stellar resume. Perfect resume. Some of you all know exactly what that's like. You have a perfect resume. You have you have everything in its place. You've gone to the right schools. You did your grad school. You did your master's. You did your doctors. You have all the right educational pedigree, and not only that, you have all the experience. Yet you put in your resume, you put in your application, and you get turned down. You get rejected right off. That was my experience. Going from an officer and to becoming a consultant. I had people tell me, "What do you?" I started doing like informational interviews, right? So, like, hey, if you need a network, schedule a 5-10 minute informational interview with someone who's already in your industry, pick their brain, ask them how they did it, how did they make their transition. You learn all these things in business school, and those are the things that I did. And I was on a call with someone, and they're doing an informational interview with them, and I told them what I was trying to do. I was going to go from an officer in the military to a consultant at one of the big four accounting firms in the world. I wanted to be a consultant. And I had this person tell me like, "Hey, look, you're an officer. Right? You probably have good leadership training. You probably have good leadership development. You have great professional development. You know how to lead a unit. That's great. You know how to deliver results. That's great. You can be a project manager. But I do not see you as a consultant, because what can you teach other people who are in business and who have more business experience than you?" I had with someone who was working as a consultant. They told me like, "Look, you're not gonna be able to transition. You're not gonna be able to go over because you're an officer and you're gonna be talking about business. Like, what's going on? Like, what's up? What are you doing? Stay an officer. Go be a general." I didn't let that stop me. That no, that rejection, that discouragement. They couldn't see the vision. I didn't listen. I chose not to listen to the person who could not see the vision, because they were going to give me bad advice. I used that no to build determination. I used that no to build resilience. I used that no to keep pushing. I went to so many conferences, career conferences, job conferences. I would fly out. It would take me a couple of days off work. I would fly out to the city, major city, let's say it's Chicago, and I would have all my resume. I'd have everything ready to rock and roll. All my networking techniques, all my elevator speeches, I had it all ready to go. And I would stand in line, in a long line of individuals who are trying to get the attention of these recruiters at one of the big four accounting firms in the world. The companies that are in high demand, that are paying the highest salaries and yada yada yada, they have the longest lines at these job fairs and these career conferences. And I stood in that line probably for like, it took me like 20-30 minutes standing in line, just waiting for my turn. I had my resumes, I had what I was going to say, so on and so forth. I get up to the front of the line, and I see this recruiter, and the recruiter takes my resume and is like, "Hey, so why are you interested in this firm?" And I'm like, "Well, it's my number one pick. Yeah, I was born to be a consultant. I have a great business case." I just went on and on about my career. I did my elevator pitch. I said, "I want to work on very difficult problems. I want to solve very difficult problems with very intelligent people. I want to help companies transform their industries." I had everything that I needed to say as a consultant. I had it ready to roll, and I felt it. It was authentic. The recruiter looked at me, said, "Thank you for your resume. That sounds great. hope I think you may be a good fit. And they took my resume and they put it on the pile with 100 other resumes. And I saw that there was two piles. It was one pile that had like all the resumes stacked up, and there was another pile that had like just 10 resumes in it. And they put my resume on that pile that had all of them stacked up. And I was just like, dang it. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. That's a no. That's a no. If you talk to a recruiter, here's a tip. If you talk to a recruiter and they put your resume on the pile with a whole bunch of resumes, and there's another pile right next to it that only has 2 or 3, my friends, you didn't make it. Time to go back to the drawing board. Wear a different suit, come up with a different elevator pitch, use a different part of your personality, but you didn't make it. And that's how I felt. I didn't make it. Next career conference happened. Next job opportunity happened. I said, I can't give it up. I can't give up the vision. I believe that I'm going to transition out of the military and I'm going to be a consultant at one of the big 4 accounting firms in the world. I am going to be an excellent consultant. I'm going to help transform businesses. That happened multiple times, going to career conferences and getting rejected, going to job fairs and getting rejected, until I went to a job fair in San Diego. I went to a career conference in San Diego. And I stood in line just like I normally do at the firm that I want to work for. And it took me about 15 minutes to get to the front. When I got to the front, I saw the same recruiter that I had seen in Chicago. I saw the same recruiter that I've seen in a couple of other times. And they didn't recognize me, but I recognized them. See, when you're in sales, when you're doing your job, you begin to recognize your leads and recognize your prospects before your prospects recognize you. And when I got up to the front, the recruiter didn't recognize me. And they said, tell me about yourself. Tell me why you want to be a part of the firm. And I told them about myself. I used the best elevator pitch ever. Like, my name is Kenneth Bowman. I want to work on very difficult problems and solve very difficult problems with very intelligent people. Your firm is my number one choice because of the collaborative nature and the fact that your firm is very collegiate and you all work on some of the most exciting problems and some of the most difficult problems across multiple industries. I really like what you guys are doing in tech. I just went on and on about what I know about the firm, and I demonstrated my knowledge about the firm that I wanted to work for by speaking. I demonstrated that I knew about the firm by the way I spoke. And I was also very passionate. I was also very excited. I remember talking very excitedly because I had gone to so many career conferences, and all that rejection, all that rejection, which I didn't quit on, all that rejection turned into energy. It turned into passion. It turned into determination. It turned into resilience that you can feel, that you can smell, that you can taste. It turned into that passion that you get when you're talking to someone who is very excited about a particular product. And that's the excitement that I demonstrated about my dream firm, my number one choice. So when I was talking to the recruiter, I could tell that I was much more passionate than I've ever been. I was much more animated than I've ever been. I was building much more rapport than I've ever built. And I remember handing him my resume, and I remember him looking at it. And he said, so what job are you planning on going to? Or what job are you interested in? Where are you planning on working at the firm? And I said, well, I'm considering this particular consulting practice because this, and this. And I gave him some reasons. He's like, well, okay. And what job are you interested in? Like, what is a specific job? So I knew he was looking for a rec number. So I said, it's funny you should ask that. I did see a job opening. There's 3 of them that I saw on the website. They're on the back of my resume. Those rec numbers, they're on the back of my resume. They're right there. And they're like, well, that's good. I can tell I wasn't really winning him over. So he was like, well, I'll tell you what, have you talked to John? And I said, John? What's his last name? And they told me John's last name. And I said, yes, I did talk to John. I also talked to Mary. I talked to Stephanie. I talked to Rachel. I talked to Mark. I just listed all the names of the people at the firm that I had spoken to over the last year. I listed all of them. I said, I talked to so-and-so, and I listed who they are and where they work at the firm. And I also listed where I met them. The reason why I had all those references was because I faced so much rejection that I memorized their name, I memorized who they were, I knew where they met. I had real concrete knowledge of the company, and I was able to demonstrate that knowledge of the company and demonstrate the knowledge of the individuals who work at my dream firm. I was able to demonstrate that in the way that I spoke. So I said, yes, I did talk to them. I also talked to all these other people. And I let me know who else I need to talk to because I'm very interested in joining the firm. And I can tell they were a little bit overwhelmed. They're like, "Wait, dang, like you're not talking like anybody else out here. You're telling me everyone that you've met at the firm. You're telling me why you want to work here. I asked you for the job, and if you consider what roles are open, and you already have the roles written on the back of your resume." I remember the person taking my resume after that conversation, and they I knew that I had communicated very well that I am not going to give up. I'm going to continue to pursue you. You're going to continue to see my face because I believe in your company. I believe in your firm. I believe in your mission. And I believe that I'm going to be the best suited person for you in order to generate value for your business. And it's going to be a win-win. It's going to help my career, but it's also going to help your firm by me joining your firm. He took my resume and he put it in the pile that only had about 10 resumes in it. And he did not put it in the main pile that is usually that my resume usually had gone into. And when he put it in that pile and he said, "Here, put it in here and go over there and talk to Mike." He put the resume down and I went over there to talk to Mike. And Mike was like, he was like in the background. No one was really talking to him. He wasn't really engaging with a lot of people, but he was like in a conversation with with an applicant. But his line was not very long. No one was just talking to Mike for no reason. And I went over there and I stood in line and I waited patiently. And so when it was my turn to talk to Mike, I was like, "Hey, so and so over there, they sent me over here to talk to you." And he asked me the similar questions. "Why do you want to join the firm? What are you interested in?" And I told him all the things. And they're like, "Okay, that sounds good." And they're like, I haven't heard from you before. I haven't heard of you before, or I don't know about." He was trying to say that he didn't know about me. And I was like, "Well, I met you in Chicago." We were at this conference together, and I was one of the random people that went through your line. They're like, "Oh, you really?" You're like, "Yeah." So I was able to demonstrate that I was very excited, even though I faced a rejection. I was still consistently optimistic. I was still expressing passion about joining the company. Long story short, talked to the right person, talked to them at the right time, and I eventually got an offer to my dream firm after a year of pursuing them. After a year of hearing no, I still had the energy to say, "I'm going to join," even though my company that I want to work for told me no. Even though the people at my company that I look up to and that I respect told me no. Even though I was told no for an entire year, it took me a year of pursuit to get a yes. And once I got into a yes, I came in as a consultant. They gave me the things that I needed to get in order to develop the skills I needed to be successful as a consultant. I became a manager. I became a trusted advisor. I became an engagement lead. I was a functional lead. I was an analyst. I ran testing. I did all these great things at this company. But none of those things would have happened if I yielded to that rejection. I share that story with you to let you know that I know that when you pick up that phone, you make that cold call, you are again building up that determination, the resilience that you need in order to be a stronger individual. You're building up your power as a man or your power as a woman. Each time you hear no, your resilience gets stronger, your determination gets stronger, the ability for you to develop the strength that you need to become the powerful man or woman that you're going to be gets stronger. Embrace those no's and ask them why. Like, "Hey, no." If they tell you no, may I ask you why? I just want to know for future reference in case we run into each other again, why you're saying no at this point. Even if they're not willing to talk to you at all, say, "Let me just ask you one question. Can I ask you why you're saying no?" You want to find out why they are rejecting you so that later on you can use that information in order to become a better salesperson. You can use that information to grow your career. You can use that information to get ahead. You can use that that information to lead a better sales team. You can use that information to build a company. You can use that information to create profits that exceed expectations. You can use that information to strengthen an industry. And if you strengthen an industry, you can grow the economy. And if you grow the economy, one day we'll have the economy that we need so that men, women, and children of every ethnicity can experience prosperity and live in harmony. It's big what you're doing. The things that you're doing for your children, the work that you're doing, the sacrifices that you're making, the battles that you're fighting. It's big what you're doing. Every time you pick up that phone and call, every time you hear a no, every time you continue selling that product or service, even after you hear a no, each time you work on your professional leadership skills, each time you learn how to lead your team, your sales team better, each time you plug the information that you have into your customer relationship management system, each time you let marketing know what they need to do, each time you inform operations about the challenges that you're facing as a salesperson, each time you communicate and you help your team succeed, each time you help your company create profits that exceed expectations, each time you do that, you get stronger. You develop more resilience. You develop more determination. You develop more strength and more power. And that power can be used in whatever you want to use it on in your entire life. There may be personal goals that you're going after. There may be a hobby that you're establishing. There may be a relationship that you're working on. That determination and that resilience that you're building by making that cold call and continuing to sell, that is going to give you the determination and the resilience that you need to succeed in other areas of your life. With great power comes great responsibility. You will have the responsibility that is greater than you can ever imagine, because you're going to be more powerful than anyone can ever imagine by just continuing to build that determination and the resilience, by picking up those phone calls, getting to the no, asking them why, and then learning from your mistakes. That's what it's all about. We're going to make a whole lot of money together. Trust and believe. Each keynote that I deliver, each video that I produce, my goal is to create $1 million of value. And I believe if the right people at the right time, the right salespeople at the right time get motivation that they need and inspiration that they need to pick up that phone call and close those big deals, this very video will generate over $1 million of value. That's my goal. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm all about. I hope you enjoyed this message, and I look forward to talking to you again in the next video. Thank you.